Special thanks to Counselor Marin for always supporting our ideas, no matter how small or big. Thank you for always being big supporter to the Lloydminster Youth Council.
Our next presenter is an empathetic and patient student from Holy Rosary High School who is here, and he thinks he has a big message that you all need to hear.
Let's welcome Ryan Lamont-Tang and his presentation, Peace in Balance.
What does power mean to an individual? Do we have power when we're writing our learner's exam, or while we're waiting to hear if we've been accepted to our chosen post-secondary institution? I find for myself that, yes, we do have power, as we always have the power to control and prepare ourselves for what lies ahead in the future. And what I mean by that is, look at the things like applying for post-secondary, or writing your learner's exam, or even just simply going to work. All these aspects in our life require both control so that we're able to be precise, power so that we feel that need to do what we need to do, and then also that purpose and preparation, because that's what we need. For me, I look at these like a dam and a river. The dam would symbolize your control, while the river would symbolize your power. And you see, the problem is if we close off too much of that dam, or we don't allow ourselves to have enough power, we can become very absent-minded or just lose that purpose we need in our life. And the same is true for when we don't have enough, when we let too much power in. We become power-hungry, manipulative, and narcissistic, and we lose that control to be precise with our actions. And the biggest thing is that we need a balance. You see, for me, I look at my analogy like the idea of the two wolves inside of us, always in conflict, always battling inside us, all throughout our lives. So the question is, which one do we feed? The one that wins? The one that loses? I find for myself, we need to find a balance. Either it's between the two wolves, the two people inside of us, the two dams, or simply just within ourselves. Like looking back at the wolves, one symbolizes our power, which is nastier but also very absent-minded, but the other symbolizes your control, but also is very hesitant to do anything. And the biggest question is, which one do we feed? For me, it's find a balance. That doesn't mean we don't cut off one or we cut off the other. It just means whatever is good for you, that makes you feel empowered, but also careful, is what you feed. And we already find a balance throughout our lives. Think about it. Work to personal life, how we eat, or what we do. We always find a balance in our life. It's ingrained inside of us. And for me, I do this throughout my life too. We all do it. That's part of being human. The same is true for the ways in which we find our peace and our control. For me, I do this in 3 ways. Number 1, I try and meditate. Now, I'm not saying that I meditate as in the like that. I just more focus on myself. I think, what could I do better that I didn't do? Because I find, for me at least, when I don't do this, I become a storm of emotions. I lose the sense or the way that I need to go, and I just become this rush of emotions that can't be controlled. And so I meditate, because it allows me to focus on the part of myself that did do good, and even though I made mistakes, I was able to recognize it. I do this all the time, but it may not look like our stereotypical form of meditation. It still is. All meditation is self-reflection. For me, I do this when I'm spending time by myself, or I'm watching a TV show, or even just talking to my family. I think about what I could do better, but also I remind myself I'm human. The same way I do this, I move out of my comfort zone. We all can't live inside this box we create ourselves in life. That's why, for me, I moved out of my comfort zone. I've been doing it a lot more recently. I used to be someone who was stuck in this box. That was until I did two things. The first, I started airbrushing. For me, you asked me what airbrushing was before I started, I would have had no clue what you were talking about. But then after my art teacher, Miss Torrance, gave me the push to do it, I loved it. It showed to me the patience that I require is something that can be used to create something that I find is very worthwhile. And even though I was nervous in the beginning, it still is good. The same is true when I joined computer science. For me, when you would ask me what computer science was, I just simply blanked because I didn't know what it was. Even when doing the courses, I felt like I wasn't doing enough work or that I wasn't learning the content very well. But then my teacher, Ms. Johal, said a good programmer doesn't know what they're doing and that it's okay. And so I was able to recognize that I'm not going to be the best, but I can do the most I can. The third way I do this is through reminding myself and reflecting on myself what around me I couldn't control. Now, I do this mainly because, for me, I'm a worrier. I can worry about the most minimal things and think that it's the end-all, be-all. I can worry about tests. I can worry about a person that I felt like I slighted them. But I have to remind myself, I can't control them. I can only control myself. And I need to remember, just because these people are around me, doesn't mean that I'm the end-all, be-all. I am just someone who is around them, and the same is true for me. Now, I would like to impart to you guys with a quote. The balance of power is the scale of peace. This was by Tom Paine, as you can see. He was an American revolutionary. He was someone who had to deal with political power of Britain. But I find this quote, too, talks about the power and the balance we need within our lives, because if we don't, we lose that peace. And for us, we all crave peace. We all want to be able to move to the day-to-day without feeling unworthy, unbalanced. And I find finding a balance can help us attain that. Now, we need to also remind ourselves everyone around us is different. Everyone around us has a different scale of peace, has a different way of finding it, and that it's okay. Everyone's different. That's what makes life unique. If everyone was the same, life would be extremely boring. And so we need to remind ourselves that we are our own worst critics, but that's a good thing. We just need to remind ourselves not to go overboard with the criticism, because then we bring ourselves down and we have ourselves lose that criticism we need, even within ourselves. I can do this too. I can criticize myself so greatly. Now, before I leave, I want to impart you guys with another quote. It was from a character who had to literally change because he had to. It was by the 11th Doctor from Doctor Who. His quote was, "We all change throughout our lives when you think about it. We're all different people, and that's good. That's okay. You have to keep moving, so long as you remember all the people that you used to be." This quote shows us that change is a good thing. Change is something we need, and that this change or this balance or whatever you want to call it is something we need to feel the human experience, and that's what life is, the human experience.